And Bonds hits one high. It's a deep. It is out of here. 7:56. Bonds stands alone.
Now Booker with Tucker on him. Throws it up for 8. Shot blocked by Antetokounmpo. What a block from Giannis.
17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead.
Minute remaining. And they're putting Curry in the pick and roll, trying to get him on Irving. Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown.
We're sending it in, Jerome. That's for damn sure.
Yes, yes, yes. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Taproom Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan. Stacks on stacks, lads. Joined, finally, we got our guy, AK, back in the building. Busy. Well, we both were busy last week, which kind of threw us off a little bit. And then AK had some business to take care of on Wednesday. Missed our Mountain West preview show, but it's okay. We held it down. Got some good bets on deck for the Mountain West. And next week, make sure to tune in on Wednesday. We have our ACC preview show, and AK is going to tell you guys why the Virginia Cavaliers are going to win the ACC this year.
It's going to definitely involve me slashing some tires on some team buses.
I'm looking forward to that conference preview show. It's a very interesting conference this year. The public play basically is Florida State. And
it's becoming Louisville, but we'll talk about that as well.
Louisville, stinky. We'll definitely talk about
Jordan,
it.
I will tell you, man. I know I missed the show the other day, and I really wanted to talk about the Mountain West, but unfortunately, I had to drive 13 and a half hours to a good friend of ours of the show, Mark Zenos. Met him down in Braselton, Georgia. Had some good lunch with him, and he was actually buying a car from me. So we did some business and turned around and drove, and 13 and a half hour round trip. But hey, that's what friends do for each other. But I did want to throw out the only thing that I've bet, and it was very small in the Mountain West, is I did bet Air Force to win the Mountain West at like plus 475 about a month ago.
Well, I mean, you, me, and Irv basically align. Me and Irv both like them over 9.5 wins. Or 8.5. I think there were 8.5 wins. We liked them over, and we both thought they could win 11 games this year, and the Mountain West title was in reach. They have the best schedule of all the Mountain West teams. I am concerned Zeke Daniels is their best quarterback in program history. He's gone, obviously, so that's hurt. But, I mean, Air Force doesn't really throw the ball, so it doesn't really matter all too much. But, yeah, man, it's interesting. You weren't on the show, but, like, we kind of all align on that.
Transparency, I have not listened to the show yet. I've been so busy that I've not listened to it. So for the viewers out there listening, we have not talked about it.
Yeah, we haven't.
And I have not listened to the show, full transparency. So I love hearing that, and that makes me want to go bet some more on them.
Yeah, that's why I was like, when you were saying that, I was like, oh, this is interesting. We kind of all like the same side, and I mean, that's a good thing because we've been pretty solid on our college football plays. And last year, Irv and I both liked Air Force to win the Mountain West too. That didn't really work out in our favor either, but I do think the schedule breaks their way this year, for full transparency. But yeah, man, if you guys haven't listened, you can go to Apple Podcasts, or you can go to Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and you can listen to the Mountain West preview. Like AK said, Air Force is a team we're very high on. Jordan also has a couple sleepers in there. And for full transparency, the Mountain West is my conference. Like, I'm a Mountain West guru, dude. That's like my conference. So definitely want to tap in. I'll give y'all another play. Hawaii over 3.5 wins this year. The fighting Timmy Changs, baby. The fighting Timmy Changs. I thought they were better. They were better than I expected last year. AK, I didn't think they were going to win a game last year. I was shocked that they won 2 games.
And off the top of my head, I just remember them watching them against San Diego State, where they showed some fight in the first half.
They were in
it. Okay, Timmy Chang's got this, program trying to build a little culture, a little, you always know Hawaii as the team that gets out, throws the ball all around. Actually started with Timmy Chang back in the day, and then went to Cole
Yep.
Brennan. Rest in peace.
Yep.
And had some other guys out there too. But now they're trying to build a little bit of a culture, if you will, a little toughness to them. So hey, man, let them have it. Let's roll.
Yep. And they also got Marcus Arroyo fired from UNLV. UNLV went into that game. They could have been bowl eligible if they won, and Hawaii beat them, dude. They upset them, and I like the Rainbow Warriors this year. Anyways, we're here to talk some baseball. Tune in on Wednesday, ACC show, 8:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Let's talk some baseball, though, AK. Let's get it started with trade deadline approaching. We got a couple trades in this week. The Blue Jays just acquired they acquired a left-handed reliever from the Cardinals. The name slipped in my head. They DFA'd him and then ended up trading him to the Blue Jays. So it's a small trade. And then Fujinami gets traded from the A's to the Orioles. For those unaware, you look at Fujinami's ERA, it's 8 point something. It's very misleading because that's all from when he was a starter in the first month of the season. He gets moved into the bullpen end of May. And since he got moved into the bullpen, 1.25 ERA. He did pitch for the Orioles today, gave up a home run to Jose Siri, but the game was kind of out of reach. Or I shouldn't say out of reach, but I mean, it was a 2-0 game. He gives up a solo shot, 3-0. But Fujinami's been pretty good. It's a sleeper move, in my opinion. Mike Elias might be the best GM in all of baseball, in my opinion. Like, first, he takes Jackson Holiday over Drew Jones, and everyone was like, this dude's crazy. Like, Drew Jones is the best prospect in baseball. Well, Drew Jones is hitting 175 in A-ball, and Jackson Holiday is already up in Double-A, and he's hitting 400. He's getting intentionally walked as a 19-year-old dude in Double-A ball. So I think he made a good choice there. And then the Fujinami trade, they didn't have to give up anything. They gave up a mid-level prospect, a relief pitcher, for a guy that gasses 101, has been good as a reliever. And the Orioles have a severe problem bridging the starter to Cano and Bautista. And that's been their issue all year. Like, the middle relief of their bullpen is fucking atrocious. And so they had to do something about that. They also need to go get a starter, but they really needed to fix that. And they fixed it, in my opinion, without having to give up anything, really, which is huge. Now, we have a bunch of other rumors circulating around a lot of these contenders, AK, and it's definitely going to affect the futures market, right? So if you think a team's going to make a move now, like, why not get ahead of it and bet that future now if you like a team? So what are some teams you have your eye on to make a move at the deadline to kind of improve their situation going forward as we get towards October?
Well, Jordan, as we're getting close to the trade deadline, when you start looking at that, you almost look at series that are going to determine, who's going to be a buyer and a seller. And I know me and you have talked this year a lot this year about trades, and some things that we've said have started coming to fruition. Some haven't, and I think a couple, the Pirates and the Angels series this year is not this weekend is not being talked about enough as something that's gonna, man, if the Angels win a couple games this weekend, once again, they might not be a seller.
Yep.
They may be a buyer, if anything, at the trade deadline. On the flip side of that, I think that does put Pittsburgh, probably going to sell some. We've talked about Pittsburgh some. They kind of just lost their steam when their young and upcoming O'Neal Cruz went down, and then Andrew McCutchen, he's kind of been in and out, and Jack Sawinski's kind of been, up and down. I know he went like 0-24 last week, and then Brian Reynolds is struggling to find his bat too. So anyways, as good as that team was, or we thought they could be at the beginning of the season, man, they've come back to reality, if you will. So I look, David Bednar to probably be the hottest pitcher on the market, or especially relief pitching.
Yep.
Another series that I'm looking at that I think is going to determine something, not for the Blue Jays, but the Mariners. The Mariners, if they kind of fall back to, below 500, a couple games below 500, they're like 7th place in the wild card right now. So they could actually become sellers at the trade deadline, something that I didn't think I'd be saying based on my futures that I have on them to win the American League.
Yep.
So hopefully they can pull a couple games out. So anyways, my point of that is, man, we really don't know exactly who's all going to be buyers and sellers, but I do think some baseball this weekend is going to determine that, man. And there's so many rumors going around, but
Yeah.
as a Yankees fan, I'll go on air and say we have got to find a bat or two. Something I didn't think I'd be saying before the beginning of the season, but my goodness, do we need a couple bats, especially with Harrison Bader being hurt and Donaldson just being up and down and can't figure it out, and
atrocious.
losing Judge just crushed us.
Yeah. So on our Tuesday show, on our Sunday show, I gave a list of 25 potential trade candidates, and we threw the perfect scenarios for them. So we each gave a perfect scenario where they would land, right? And then a lot of, it's centered around Shohei, obviously. That was like the big conversation piece. And then Tuesday's show rolls around and the Angels coming off winning 3 straight. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if the Angels are going to sell now, dude. They're only at that point, they were only 5.5 back of the wild card. Now they're only 4.5. They win the ninth, they're only 4 back. And I was like, man, I think the Angels are going to be buyers at the deadline. Very similar to what you said. And so names I've been looking at, Lucas Giolito, Marcus Stroman, probably the 2 best starting pitchers that will probably be available. Kyle Hendricks will probably be available. Lance Lynn will probably be available. Jordan Montgomery will probably be available. Maybe going to your point of this weekend series in the next week or so, Blake Snell could become available from the Padres. He is a unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. Could be a very huge get for a lot of these teams. AK.
Wow. If I see that, if I'm just strolling on Twitter because I'm bored, at work or something, and I see that trade come across, man, I'm gonna just lose it because you basically got an NL Cy Young favorite now, or close to the favorite, being able to be traded at the deadline, man. And I mean, just think if someone like the Arizona Diamondbacks went and got him, or the Baltimore Orioles.
I don't know if the Padres would trade him.
They probably wouldn't trade him in the division, but if someone like the Baltimore Orioles, hell, the Tampa Bay Rays need a starting pitcher.
Get Blake Snell back. I mean,
wouldn't that be full circle?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that just be the story? Like, and then they go win a World Series. Like, it'd just be full circle. It'd be something they make a movie about, and a Netflix show in 10 years about it.
Well, the crazy thing is like, 2 weeks ago I was like, man, I don't know if the Orioles should like go and be like crazy buyers at the deadline. Like, don't mortgage your future. But now I'm like, man, if they get a couple pieces, like they might realistically be able to make a World Series push. Like, they got the guys, at least on offense, right? And if they go get another consistent bat, like they can't keep trotting out Aaron Hicks, dude. I'm sorry. Like, he had a good month, dude, but that's dried up now.
It was like a good 2.5 weeks.
it's that well is dried up. So I mean, I think there's a couple moves they can make, and I think there's a couple of rental bats that could be available. I told you, I was like, I think the Yankees should go trade for Tommy Pham. Like, it makes perfect sense. You don't have to give up a lot. He's a rental, and he rakes left-handed pitching. He works counts. He's like the opposite of what the Yankees do. And I think that was...
And, as far as that's concerned, I've been on Randall Grichuk for like 2 months. The Yankees need to go get him. And, of course, it's finally hitting some mainstream media now that they're actually interested in doing it. And I'm like, I've been saying that for 2 months. But, even somebody like that, man...
But as a Yankees fan, AK, do you think the Yankees are going to be serious buyers at the deadline, seeing that they're in last place now?
It just feels like a Yankees thing to do.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll bring in the NFL for a second. A day came, I guess officially today, or I guess officially yesterday, but really today, that I've been waiting for 20 plus years of my life. Dan Snyder finally sells the Washington Redskins Commanders football team. And, that kind of goes back to, for so many years, we always said, oh, it's a Dan Snyder move. There it is. Let's go. Yes, sir.
Go Washington.
And so, yes, sir. So, it's just, so anyways, for 24 years of my life, probably I've said, oh, that feels like a Redskins move, or, oh, that feels like a Yankees move. And, yeah, sure. We could be in last place and, 2 games over 500, but let's go give everything we got to try to make a run at it. It's just a Yankees move, man. And, I'm not calling for Cashman's head like some of these guys on Twitter are, and, you read about it and stuff, but something's got to be done. It's just not working right now. And here's the thing. It hasn't worked. We set this standard for so long. It's probably why I hate losing so much now is that I do as a mid-30s adult. I grew up winning.
Yeah.
Right. Yankees, we expected to win the World Series every year, right? And so we haven't won since '09. So it hasn't been working, is my point. And sometimes you just got to realize that, you got to admit that and say, hey, now we're going to change our approach a little bit.
Well, I thought that going back to the Yankees, like their approach wasn't working in the beginning of the 2000s where they were just throwing hella cash out, right? After they won the 4 straight, they go out and they get like Giambis of the world and the Raul Ibanez is of the world, and like they just throw cash at all these free agents, and it wasn't working. And then 2009, it worked for a year. Like they go out and get CC Sabathia and a bunch of guys, and it works for 1 year, and then it just kind of all sputters, dude, right? And then obviously Steinbrenner passes away, the kids take over. And then also that people don't talk about is the luxury tax gets implemented in this time period too. Whereas before you could spend freely and there's no luxury tax. Now there's a luxury tax. So now if you pay that luxury tax and you don't win, you're losing money as a franchise. I don't know if the Yankees are losing money, but it's possibility you could be losing money, right? So I think a lot of these things have to be factored in. And Cashman, to his credit, has always been steadfast in the sense where he's like, I'm not going to trade away, I'm not going to mortgage my future. And he's actually gotten good guys in at relatively good market value, right? It's just that, he gets Frankie Montas and Montas's arm falls off. He gets like, a lot of it is bad luck.
Carlos Rodon, and he gets hurt again,
Yeah, it's a lot of, and that's just how baseball goes, dude, unfortunately. Like, imagine being the Dodgers and signing Trevor Bauer, and then all that stuff goes on, dude. It's like you just can't prepare yourself for that. You know what I mean? And unfortunately for the Yankees, like you're right, dude. Like I'm not a Yankees fan. Like I love watching the Yankees lose. It is one of my favorite pastimes. But I think Brian Cashman, if he wasn't a GM of the Yankees, like he could go to another team and be successful too. Like I think he's good at what he does. I just think the Yankees fans' expectations, like you said, that you expect to win every year, I think it's unrealistic. Would you agree?
Yeah, and hey, we were spoiled growing up.
Yeah.
I was born into a house, and we weren't allowed to not be Yankees fans. I can't say we weren't allowed. It was just never an option. You know what I mean? My dad looked at us, and we rooted for the Yankees every night. I can remember, showing my age now, but you remember like the cabinet TVs?
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't like lift them. You took like 4 like grown men to like lift them. But anyways, cabinet TV, and I remember that cabinet opening, and like I'm like 4 or 5 years old, and I'm like playing in the floor, and then I see it, right, and my dad's like bitching about the strike. So I guess it's like '94 maybe. All these assholes, they want to make all this money, and we're anyways. Wasn't given an option, So of course, you're 6 or 7 years old and you start wanting to play baseball and like baseball, and it was weird to watch the Yankees. And then they just start winning. During that time too, the Atlanta Braves just had a streak where it was like people were either Atlanta Braves fans or Yankees fans. You're on the playground and you're like arguing with guys with Braves hats on. But it was like 4 guys with Yankees hats, 3 guys with Braves hats. And just made us expect to win. And maybe that's a curse. I don't know.
That's why I hated the Yankees, because I grew up in California and everyone was Yankees fans. I'm like, what? We live in the Bay Area. We got 2 professional sports teams, 2 professional baseball teams here. You guys are Yankees fans? Come on, man. What are we doing? The biggest reason why I hate the Yankees, full transparency, AK, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but 2002 ALDS, A's versus Yankees, Jeremy Giambi going home. Derek Jeter makes a famous backflip pitch to home plate. Jorge Posada tags out Jeremy Giambi.
Yep.
If there's replay back then, Jeremy Giambi's safe. The A's sweep the Yankees in that series. Then they beat the absolute dog piss out of the fucking Angels, and they probably win that World Series. They were the best team in the American League that year. Best team in Major League Baseball probably that year. So that's still pains me, dude. And I was at the game to top it all off.
You were at that game? That's incredible, man. Good stuff.
No, not good stuff, because I have PTSD, dude.
That's still a story to tell.
My friends that are Giants fans or any other team's fans, whenever they want to make me mad, they just send me the video clip of Derek Jeter throwing that that pitch to Jorge Posada, and I lose it, dude. I absolutely lose it. Life of being an A's fan, though. It's always what could have been. Anyways, so as far as futures are concerned, AK, I know you have that future on the Reds to win the NL Central. What's your thoughts on it now? We saw it. It's still at like 2-1, so it's still like relatively close. But we're seeing Brewers -170 now, pretty much heavy favorites, which I really agree with. I talked about it on Sunday. I said, and you and Irv both know, and Ben as well. Like, I've been down on the Brewers for a while, but man, they have turned it around. They've been swinging the sticks well, pitching well. My uptick on the Brewers has gone up.
And mine has too. And that Reds bet the whole time is the only bet that I've placed during the season as far as futures. I kind of what I do with futures, whether it's baseball, football, basketball. Basketball should take it out of that. I do place a decent amount of futures on basketball during the season, but baseball and football, I kind of just stick to what I placed before the season. And if I see opportunity to jump in, like there's like one or two. So the Reds, full transparency, is the only one I've placed during the season. I just got a great number, 19-1, and I just couldn't turn it down at the time. I knew I got it after Ellie's first game, and I just had to
it was a great
jump
bet
in at the time. I knew in Carson, I cannot say his name, but I knew Strand was going to come up. As you know, and I'm not sure a lot of the viewers know, I do watch a lot of AAA baseball. So I knew he was coming up, and I knew they were going to end up having 4, starters basically from their AAA team playing. But it was a great bet. It was a great number. I knew I was going to get massive CLV on it, and I just saw the uptick, man, and I'm still happy with it. The Reds showed tonight they got some fight in them, and I don't think they're going to go into the night quietly. So the Brewers should be the odds-on favorite. Corbin Burns has been on a massive uptick now. He's kind of figured it out, which we knew he would. Their bats have turned alive. I'm sorry, my phone's going crazy. I forgot to turn it off. I apologize. And so my point of that is, love that bet. Another bet that I was looking at before we hopped on the show, that if I was forced to place a bet right now, would be the Blue Jays season win total. I have the Blue Jays to win the AL East, very small. I have the Blue Jays to win the AL American League, very big, before the season. So I'm still rooting for the Blue Jays to figure it out. And the reason why I say I like their win total right now, you can find that still at 89.5 at a lot of books. Some books have it all the way up to 92.5. So if you can get Blue Jays over 89.5, that'd be a bet that I'd be willing to look into.
You can get Blue Jays plus, or you can get them 10-1 at FanDuel to win the AL East, which I don't think is a bad bet. They're only 5, or what are they back? They're 3.5 back right now? 3.5 or 4.5 back?
I think it's 4.5. I'm looking now.
I think it's 4.5. It's one of those.
Well, it's 5 to now. Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, I think that's a solid bet. I mean, this is a team that, both of us, we were both high on the Blue Jays coming into the year. Manoah being as bad as he has been, kind of set us back a little bit. Yeah, I was wrong about
that one. Yeah, I'll take that one on the chin, Jordan.
But, the fact that they're still hanging around and he hasn't been the Manoah of last year, I think is still pretty impressive. And if Manoah turns around, he's been better his last 2 starts. And if he turns it around, AK, they could easily win this division. I think the Rays were seeing that regression hit in a massive, just against the wall at one point. But I think this is kind of who the Rays were. This is who they were last year. Like, they struggled to score runs last year. And this year, now, they don't have Rasmussen. They don't have Jeffrey Springs on top of that, who were 2 of their best starters a year ago. So I think that we're only going to see the Rays kind of trend down even more. This might be crazy to say.
Kudos to anyone that got it. At one point in time, I think the Rays over-under for the win total was like 108.5 wins. So kudos to you, man. If you got it.
If you got it under?
Under.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say like I don't know what the odds are for them not to make the playoffs, but it might be a legit it might be a decent bet to bet them to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far just because I do expect them to
Still got
figure it out, at
61
least
games.
offensively. I really do. They're offensively, I feel like they figure it out at some point. But I agree, man. I think if if you're looking for a future to bet, there's a couple ways to attack the Blue Jays. Like you said, you can get them like 5-1 to win the American League East right now. Um, actually shop that number around, Jordan. So this is an interesting number too. When we talk about futures, always shopping in. DraftKings Sportsbook has them only plus 220 to win the AL East right now.
But FanDuel has them 10-1.
But FanDuel, well, now it's dropped. It was 10-1 when I looked this morning too. It's down to 8-1 now. But that's my point. You can still find 9-1 at Bet Rivers.
You can get Toronto 11-1 to win the AL pennant. To win the AL,
Yep.
so they're basically in the same. There's no way the Minnesota Twins are 12-1, dude. There's nobody out here that actually believes they're gonna win the pennant, right? Well, the Twins are actually interesting because they probably have the best starting pitching in the AL, but they just can't hit.
They just can't hit, man. They just can't figure it out.
So that's an interesting one, actually. And honestly, pitching wins in the postseason, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So that could be very interesting. Bets I would stay away from: Texas. I think the Astros might actually catch them. So betting the Astros AL West to win the AL West, I think that might be a good bet. Jordan's going to be coming back in the next week or so. And then I fully anticipate Houston to go out and trade for a veteran arm. Because right now they're pitching like 3 rookies in their starting rotation, which I don't think is very realistic. And they're still playing all right. The Yankees have a better chance to win the AL pennant right now, AK, than Baltimore, Toronto, or Toronto. How?
Hey, to your point, Jordan, I'm just looking. Astros only 3.5 games back, man. So you're right. They may catch them.
I definitely, dude, that Rangers regression is coming, man.
I just feel like we've been saying that, and then like it went through like a 15-day period where okay, it was there, but then they're just right back at them.
We have been saying it, but it's coming, dude. They're hitting like 300 with runners in scoring position. That's gonna end, and their pitching like just cannot sustain, dude. I'm sorry, like John Gray, he's cool with it. Like he's pitching lights out. Eovaldi as well. Like all these guys are coming back to earth a little bit.
Hey, I will say when we're talking about future bets before the season, my biggest future bet, which
Diamondbacks.
a lot of us were on it, Diamondbacks over 75.5 wins. And we've seen a little bit of Diamondback regression, especially before the All-Star break, coming out the All-Star break. But man, they just went to Atlanta and showed that they can go toe to toe with just about anyone. So they get into the playoffs, which they should. I would hate to be the first team they got to play in the wild card.
I would love to be the first team they got to play. Well, in a 3-game series, it is a little tough because they have Gallen and Kelly. Kelly's hurt though.
Yep.
Which does suck.
But Kelly should be back and get healthy, and even Tommy Henry's been pitching well, man.
Until today.
Yeah, which it was coming. We all knew it.
Yeah, when I backed him.
Right. Yeah, and I was looking at that too, but I like that Diamondbacks team, man. I just need them to get to 76 wins, and that's all right because that's the only future I have on them. But when you're just talking about good value bets and things like that, the Diamondbacks sitting there at 38-1 to win the World Series might be worth the pizza sprinkle money.
Yeah,
just because you never know. I just feel like you're talking about getting ahead of the curve. They go trade for a good arm. Kelly gets healthy. The sky's the limit, man. That team's hungry.
2 teams I bet on mid-year last year to win the World Series was Cleveland and the Mariners. The reason why I backed both those teams last year in the middle of the year was because they both had good pitching and bullpens. So I was like, all right, pitching wins in the postseason. Guardians get into the postseason. They get the Yankees first round. The infamous
tough.
The infamous rain out probably cost them
Yep.
because the Yankees didn't have their bullpen would have been taxed. They wouldn't have been able to throw a couple guys, and that kind of ruined the series. But they hung in there, and then Seattle, they hung tough, and then they blew that lead against Houston, and I think
Gosh,
Houston.
what was it, like 7-1 or so? I was actually on them plus 1.5, and thank God they covered the 1.5. But they were up 7-1. I think they lose the game by one.
Yep, they lost 8-7 because
Yep,
I think Jordan hit a walk-off grand slam, dude. When they
that's
were down
right.
like
Yeah, I just remember
7-4.
they bought Robbie Ray in,
Yep.
and he hits the walk off on Robbie Ray. So
Yeah, PTSD, man. But now it's like this Seattle team this year is like they still got the good starting rotation. They still got good starting pitching. They still got good relievers, but now they just like they're so inconsistent at the plate. Like tonight, dude, they have 0 runs against Yusei Kikuchi, which I called by the
Yep.
way. I love this under because they can't hit left-handed pitching, dude. They just can't do it. I don't know what it is with them. They can't hit left-handed pitching. But they still have good pitching, so it's like, okay, if they can somehow manage to get into the playoffs, they just got to get in. They got a scary chance to like make a run. Like, I want to bring it back to like a la the Giants 2010, 2012, 2014. Like that's the kind of team that this could be. Like, yeah, through 162, they're gonna barely win over 500. But the thing is like they got the best thing that can sustain a playoff run, and that's pitching. So
yeah, and I mean they're still in the mix, man. They're 500. They can figure out a way to win a couple games, get above 500. They're right there on the Angels' butt, and man, they're right there on the Yankees and the Red Sox as well.
the problem is
That's all it
the
takes.
Angels are ahead of them. They're in the same division, right? They're 4.5 back of the Angels, Yankees, Boston, and Houston. So they got 2 teams in their own division ahead of them.
Yep.
Do they have an actual shot at making the playoffs, do you think?
I'm torn on that. They're pitching Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, and even Castillo can put it together.
They got
he's
the
been struggling,
best
but-
3 in the American League, dude.
So you're talking about playing a playoff series, a wild card series, best of 3. I mean, and their bullpen's been good. I know they've been a little down as of late, but they're still figuring it out. They'll put it back together just like they did at the beginning of the season. I'd hate to play them in a best of 3 series, to be honest with you, and just get their effort. They're going to throw it all at you. I'd hate to play them in a 3-game series.
They might be the scariest team.
And they just got to get there, and it's going to take one of those, 2-week spans when you go like, 10-4, right? Or a 3-week span, you go 10-5 or 11-5. And it's just so frustrating. I watch the Mariners a lot. I generally like the Mariners, that's why I have a lot of Seattle gear. I generally like the Mariners. I like a lot of the guys on them. Followed them very closely, was high on them coming into the season off of what they did last year. Thought they'd build on that success, but they just can't put it together back to back to back. And it's so frustrating. It's infuriating.
It's like the Padres, but they don't have the Padres lineup.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the Padres. They just night in and night out, you don't know what team you're going to get.
Yep.
And that could be said for a lot of baseball teams, but the Mariners just can't find consistency. They'll put it together one night, and the next night they come and get beat by the Twins 10-3, right?
Yep, 100%.
Just like what team is this? It's not the same team I watched last night.
And a big part of that is
Kelenic, breaks his foot. I'm waiting on a breakout season for him this year. And
he was
then
doing
breaks his foot because he kicks a water bucket.
Yeah, I mean that sums up their season, dude. It really does. I think the big thing about Seattle too is like Ty France was great last year, almost a 300 hitter. He was one of the best first basemen in baseball, and this year he's just like not the same guy. And this is the guy that like trained under Tony Gwynn. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people thought this guy was the next, great hitter, and he just hasn't been able to get there again. And that's the other thing too. Julio Rodriguez isn't the same as last year. Like they're having down years from guys that had great years last year. And I think that's
I mean, Gino was never going to put it together again, but I thought we'd have more from him too. He's batting right over 200 right now.
Yeah, but he gets timely hits.
He does. He always has.
That's the thing with
And J.P. Crawford's the same way. He's just one of those guys. He gets on, finds a way to get on base. Or hits that one. Double. Bases clear and double.
when you need it. I
Yep.
swear.
And Teoscar Hernandez, man, he's
Well, there's a
had an
reason.
okay season, but
I tried to tell Mariners fans in the offseason, I was like, yo, there's a reason why the Blue Jays traded you, Teoscar Hernandez, for Swanson, dude. Like, Teoscar Hernandez has one good year under his belt. He was atrocious last year. He was a huge reason why the Blue Jays weren't that good, because he couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. Remember, we talked about Blue Jays with runners in scoring position. We talk about it all the time. He was a big reason for that, because Bichette would get on base, Vladdy would get on base via walk, and then nobody could bring him home. Here they are. Are there any teams that you're kind of looking at maybe in the futures market that could make a move? They could like propel them.
That's a good question, Jordan. And I don't know if one team is just one player away, or that sixth hole away. I really don't think so this year. And I know me and you've talked about it. We haven't talked about it on air. We keep hyping up the trade deadline like we always do every year. And this may be a down year for trade deadlines. Yep. As I said earlier at the beginning of the show, there's a lot of teams that may think they're in contention. A couple of these divisions are pretty weak. Yep. Detroit Tigers start winning games again. So here they come. We thought they may be sellers. Yeah. I think that the Pirates, hey, look at the St. Louis Cardinals. Won 6 straight now.
Yep. They're right back in the thick of things, man. They're only 10 games back of first place.
And it's crazy.
But I mean, if they continue winning, dude, they could be like 5 games back of first place.
You parlay the 6-0 run into a 15-6 run, right? Or 15-5 run. You're right back in it. Yep. You're 4 or 5 games behind.
100%. It's crazy, man.
And so my point of that tangent is there's going to be a lot of teams that I think hold, and say, hey, we're happy where we're at, and we're just gonna push through and try to win a weak division. My Washington Commanders did a couple years ago. They win 7 games and get into the playoffs in a weak division.
Yep. Well, the funny thing too, AK, is the White Sox come out today and they say, we're open for trades, but we're not going to trade Dylan Cease. We're not going to trade Yohan Moncada. We're not trading anything of value. Basically, is what they said. We're going to trade guys that, don't really have any value. That's who's up for sale. And I think this is pretentious, and it could be devastating for a lot of these teams. And the Cardinals are one of those, because the Cardinals GM came out and said the same thing after the report came out that the Cardinals were going to be sellers at the deadline during the All-Star break. He comes out and says, yeah, we're going to sell, but, we're not trading Arenado. We're not trading Goldschmidt. We're not trading, any of our core pieces, but these are the guys that are available. Plus, we're interested in trading for Logan Gilbert is what the Cardinals said. It's like, that's
such a Cardinals thing to say, but here's the thing about the Cardinals. Let's just say we get a plus stuff from Mikolas tomorrow, and Jordan Montgomery finds a way to win Sunday, and now all of a sudden they've won 8 games straight, and they're heading to Arizona with what's crazy to say, but a showdown with the Diamondbacks.
Yep. Huge.
It could get interesting, man. It could get very interesting. And then here's the thing. Let's just say they take 1 or 2 against the Diamondbacks. Let's just say you're sitting at 8-2 after that. Then you get Chicago at home back in St. Louis on a 4-game series. Say you find a way to go 2-2, 3-1 there. All of a sudden you're on a 12-4 run.
So
that's all it takes.
Can I interest you in the Cardinals 21-1 to win the NL Central, AK?
Absolutely not. I have pissed away a fortune on the St. Louis Cardinals this year, including some preseason bets. But I'm just saying, I think we finally have seen Polaroid shots of the team we thought they were going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That team was in there all along. It was just finding it, right?
I think they just had to figure out who they are, we didn't necessarily have the pitching this year, and I say we, but because I follow the Cardinals too. It's another team I follow closely,
Yeah.
and I think they just figured out, man, we're not going to have the pitching this year, so we're going to actually have to, put the baseball in play and score and outscore people, and they've been doing it.
I was gonna say, to be fair, like they've put up 464 runs, which is a lot in comparison to a lot of teams. But the problem is they just can't pitch, dude. Like they've given up 481 runs. Another team I want to ask you about too, AK, the Miami Marlins, who 2-8 in their last 10, lost 7 in a row now. Kind of, I hate to say like the regression, but I mean we did see some regression coming. They won a lot of one-score games, which I know BP and Trig want to talk about, but for a guy who had the Marlins 44-1 to win the division, Hurts 11.5 back now. It's kind of out of reach. Can they make the playoffs? I mean, Luis Arias, the 400 is out of the picture now. There's no chance he hits 400.
I don't have too much of an opinion, Jordan, and my God, I'm rooting for you, but
It's not gonna
I
happen,
just
dude. I already kicked it up, bro.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they were arguing with me, not arguing with me. They were debating with me about how I feel about the Green Bay Packers this year. But we'll talk about that when football.
Oh, I
season
love
comes
Green Bay.
around.
I hope you love Green Bay.
I do a lot.
Let's
actually.
go. I got them.
Actually really.
I got them plus
full
4.
transparency. We have not talked about that off air.
We have
one
not.
bit. So I see your face lit up when I said that, and my face I know is red right now because I lit up. But anyways, that's a story for a different night. So I was arguing with someone about it, not arguing but debating. They're just, oh my God, all about the Minnesota Vikings, right? The Minnesota Vikings won 11 one-score games last year.
Yep.
Oh, side note about the Green Bay Packers. They played 12 games against teams with a losing record from last year.
Yep.
Anyways, Minnesota Vikings won 11 games. They went 11-0 in one-score games last year.
Yep.
That'll never happen again, ever in the history of football.
In the history.
They won 13 games with, I think, a negative 4-point differential. That'll never happen ever in the history of football again. I compare them to the Miami Marlins, but the Miami Marlins play 162 games, right?
Yep.
You play 162 football games, those one-score games would start flipping the other way.
Yep.
Just natural attrition. And so the Miami Marlins, we've seen that now. It's just come, you can't. I think they went 16-4 in one-score games in like the first 2 or 3 months of baseball. That's tough to do.
Yep.
And it just the pendulum swings the other way, man. And it's just how things go. As far as them making the playoffs, I do think they still make the playoffs. Like I don't have a strong opinion, but if I had to choose one for the sake of saying I chose one, I think the Miami Marlins still figure it out and get in the playoffs.
I don't know, AK. They're out of the playoffs as we currently speak, and they're behind Philly, Arizona, and San Francisco.
Well, and I'm still not sold on Philly. Yes, they've been on a hot streak. They've been almost unbeatable on the road for some reason. Of course, bet on the night, and we get a shit for effort. But I think you saw tonight who the Phillies are.
Yeah.
They can just lay these stinkers and just act like they don't care.
Yep.
So I'm just not that high on the Phillies. I wasn't high on the Phillies. I talked about it on this show multiple times before the season.
You, Irv, and I, all three of us not high on the Phillies coming into the year.
Nope. And as much as I love the Cincinnati Reds, I still think there's some leveling out there as well. Yeah. And the Giants, I'm not high on them at all. They just, I think they're coming back to reality too. You're seeing who the San Francisco Giants really were and are. I made the mistake of trying to fade them a little bit when they were on that hot streak, and it felt like they were winning every day. But
they were winning every day for a minute.
Yep. Yeah. Talking about having PTSD, I have PTSD from them, but I just think you're seeing who they are too. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a Diamondbacks, probably the Phillies. They probably find a way to do it, and comes down for that last playoff spot. Man, it might belong to the Miami Marlins, but I don't know.
I think the Marlins have the starting pitching to do it. It's just my only concern is like they're already limiting Yuri Perez's innings, which is concerning because he was probably their best starter. It's like, okay, now we're doing this, and then at the same time, At the same time, it's Braxton Garrett starts to take a step back. He gave up 6 runs to the Rockies this year. So now it's like you're really
starting tomorrow.
Who is?
Good old Johnny Cueto.
So I mean, you're really relying on Jesus Luzardo to really fucking carry you at this point, which I think is a little concerning. Although I think Jesus can do it. Jesus is a great pitcher. But I mean, they can't hit, dude. They got to go out and get another bat. Because now we're kind of seeing that we're seeing Jesus Sanchez kind of regress back to earth. We're seeing, Brian De La Cruz, Jorge Soler, and Luis Ariz can't do everything. Talk about a top-heavy lineup like the Padres. That's the Marlins, except not as top-heavy because they don't have the guys that San Diego has. So I mean, the Marlins got to go out. They got to make a move for a bat or 2 or 3 to get into the playoffs. I don't know. I know you don't like the Giants. I know Irv's down on the Giants, but man, the Giants, they just find ways to win, bro. I don't know what it is, but you can't quantify it. It's just they do it.
Yeah, and then I watched a lot of that Reds game yesterday, and then you kind of see who I think they really are. I'm just speaking off of memory here, but they were, trying to claw their way back into it. I think they were down 3-0 at this point, 4-0, and they got guys on first and second, and then Yastrzemski just sits there and just swings at the first pitch that goes by him.
Yeah.
And I think he grounds it to a double play, or it's just.
Well, they're very home run or nothing. They're very similar to the Yankees, dude.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, hey, kudos to the Giants and what they've done. I'm just not a believer in them. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here talking about them fighting to be in the playoffs, in that wild card spot at the end of the year. Here's the thing about the Miami Marlins. It was going to always swing back the other way. But as that pendulum swung, it'll always swing back the other way too, it feels like. So I feel like they've got one run in them where they go, 12-4, 12-5, and then we're talking about them being right back thick of things. Baseball is such an up and down sport, ebbs and flows. We talk about it every, almost every show, it feels like. But when you start getting into the dog days of summer, the men get separated from the boys.
What do you think about the Padres? 6.5 back of the final wild card right now.
So, full transparency, I didn't have any futures on the Padres coming into the season because I was a wait and see kind of guy, and so I really wanted to see just how it would mesh. Tatis coming back, Xander Bogaerts.
They're plus 46 in run differential. AK.
Yep, but and there's some discrepancy there. There's been some games where they just like clobbered somebody like 13-3, and there was a getaway game. There's some narratives there too. But hey, as the season went on, or I'm talking like the season's over with, but as the season has gone on this year, that's how long of a season baseball is.
Yeah.
As the season went on, there was a month there where I'm like, okay, Padres are on an uptick, and I would play them and I would win, but then I'd come back a couple of days later. I'm like, all right, Padres going to win today. And they just go out there and just drop a goose egg, and just can't hit. Tatis gets up there and swings at his first pitch, at everything. And they've kind of moved him around the lineup too. Or I know a game we were on the Padres one Friday night, Ha-Seong Kim gets a stand-up double, right? And we're about to have him on second with no outs, and he tries to go to third for some stupid ass reason, gets thrown out easily, and then the next pitch, Juan Soto gets up there and hits a double that would have scored him to tie the game, and that kind of just sums up their season right there by that play. So, I'm not saying they're going to go dump Soto and all this and that, but I don't see. I think the run would have happened already.
That I agree. I think their run would have happened already. I also think the thing with the Padres too is like they're plus 46 in run differential. So you're right, they are beating the brakes off of teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing is like they're not winning those close games, and they're 0-9 in extra inning games too, which is like unbelievable.
Oh, I've been on them a couple of times when I went to extra innings. There was a Sunday night Dodgers game that's in my recent memory.
When Hader gave up the jack.
They controlled the whole game. Yep.
and that's kind of where the Padres are. So, you know, I think like my thoughts on the Padres is like I think they're too late to the party where like they could have made a trade for a bullpen piece or because they have the third best starting ERA in baseball, which is shocking. But their two biggest things is like they can't hit with runners in scoring position, and then their bullpen blows games. Those are two big things that I just don't know if they're going to be able to fix at the end of the day. So I honestly like if I'm the Padres, I'm sitting here, I'm 6.5 back right now of a wild card spot. You know, I know that their ownership isn't going to be like, oh, we're going to sell. They're probably going to sit there and be like, oh, we could still make something happen. But I think, honestly, what would be in their best interest would probably be to trade Blake Snell. Maybe even be listening to offers on Juan Soto. Because Soto's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So he could walk at the end of so you could lose two of those guys at the end of the year and not make the playoffs. And then you're out like tenfold. You know, you could save some face and get something back because they've already depleted their farm system too. So we'll see what happens. Let's talk about these two games tomorrow, though. We got the Dodgers and the Rangers. The Dodgers won tonight. They came back, won a tough battle. Currently tomorrow they are -122, +104. We got Dunning versus Bobby Miller. Dodgers -122. Rangers +104 is what I'm seeing. What do you think about this game tomorrow? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so I was very upset with I guess at both of us because we talked about this game last night off air.
Yep.
And we said, man, it's some good value to back the Dodgers today. And of course we didn't do it. And you see what happened. So listen, Dane Dunning, hey man, he's had a great year, actually. Kudos to him. I think the Dodgers kind of did go out today and give it their max effort in a game they didn't have to win, but wanted to win. It was kind of a statement game to them. I do expect them to, maybe come out tomorrow. And I think the Rangers, you get a focused Rangers effort. And I know we talked about it earlier. We've been expecting the Rangers regression for a long time, but you're still talking about a team that's 33-19 at home after, kind of getting it handed to them later in the game tonight. I think you get a focused effort for them. I don't have a strong opinion in this game, but if I was leaning anywhere, I actually might lean the Rangers at the plus money.
I'm opposite, man. I like the Dodgers in this spot again tomorrow. Dodgers have had the second best bullpen ERA in baseball in the last month, which was their weakness all year. And while Bobby Miller has been up and down, Dane Dunning sports a 2.82 ERA, but a 4.64 xFIP. And AK, I've been talking about this dude's regression is coming, and it's coming very hard. And it came against the Nationals a little bit. He gave up 2 runs against the Rays his last start. I see a little bit more of that coming. And the Dodgers rake right-handed pitching. Dodgers 113 WRC plus, 198 ISO against right-handed pitching. It's where they do their damage. I like the Dodgers in this spot. I thought, we talked about, Gonsolin was on the hill today. And I said on Twitter last night, I was like, I know Gonsolin's on the hill, but Heaney's on the opposite side. And, like, we're getting Dodgers at plus 105? Dude, and it went up to plus 115, and I still didn't play it. And I'm so mad at myself, dude, because I thought there was value at plus 105. I didn't play it. There's even more value at plus 115. I should have played it. I ended up winning the game. I just think the Dodgers do this every year, AK, where they go on, like, this 30-game run where they win like 20, they go 25-5 or 26-4, and I feel like they're here. Their bullpen's pitching well. Their offense is just clicking, dude. Like Mookie and Freddie Freeman are the best 1-2 hitters in all of baseball. I don't think there's any argument about that. And then you got Max Muncy back. Shockingly, Max Muncy, the Dodgers without Max Muncy, far worse than with Max Muncy. With Max Muncy, 116 WRC plus. Without Max Muncy, 67 WRC plus. So I actually like the Dodgers in this spot. I think this line's pretty telling because, you're telling me Bobby Miller and the Dodgers are a favorite over the Rangers tomorrow at home? Dane Dunning, a 2.2 something ERA? Nah. Give me the
Well,
Dodgers.
and I know there's some regression, positive regression baked in that too. You talk Bobby Miller. He's talking about a guy that I think he only allowed 2 runs in like his first 4 or 5 starts this year. Then he got shelled, for a couple starts. So that probably is telling too. But I still think the Rangers take one. So, but like I said, I don't have a strong opinion. So if I was tailing anything, I'd be tailing you because you have a lot stronger opinion than I do. I like the spot for the Rangers myself.
I think you're right about the spot. I just think that I think this line just screams Dodgers to me.
Hey, Jordan, while we're talking about we were just got done talking about the Mariners.
They just
Looks like
scored.
they're about to tie it up and maybe take the lead here.
Hopefully not. Hopefully they don't take the lead. I got the under. The under is my baby, but
That's right. Yep.
I'm on the Blue Jays money line too. They waited. What's the Blue Jays manager's name? His name always fucking switched. It always
Yeah, I'm not Momo. That's Cardinals. I always forget it too.
Bro, wait. Why didn't Swanson start this inning? I don't understand. He fucked up. All right, let's talk about the next game. We got the Orioles at the Rays. We got who's on the mound for the Orioles tomorrow? I know
Grayson Rodriguez.
we got Grayson against Shane McClanahan. Woo! All right, let's go. -168. Tampa Bay on FanDuel right now. Plus $1.42 for the Orioles. Oh, and they just got Pollock at home.
They threw him out at home. Nice play.
A very nice play. The total's at 8. What do you think about this one, AK? I kind of want to play the over in this one again, but the Rays haven't been able to hit.
Well, you just took the words out of my mouth. First, if you would have told me that both first 2 games would have gone under, I probably would have told you were crazy.
Right.
But anyways, the way I'd be looking to play this game, and if anyone's fans of the show or follows me at all, they know I don't play a whole lot of totals. But the way I'd be looking at this game is to place the over. As we've talked about the Rays regression, yes, it's hit like a ton of bricks and really over about the past 30 games. But at some point, the bats are going to turn around. McClanahan isn't unhittable, like we've seen him go on those streaks. And I think the Royals have an uptick in them as well. So when you're looking at McClanahan, we're talking about a guy that got shelled a couple, 2 starts ago against the Mariners. Then he got hit.
Got shelled against a team that can't hit lefties, by the way.
Yep. And then he comes back and he pitches pretty well against the Rangers. But anyways, and unfortunately, I know you're really big on the Orioles and big Orioles fan, but I think the Rays may get to Grayson tomorrow a little bit too. So if I was looking to play the game, man, I think the line should be about 8.5 or 9. So I think you can get 8. I think the over is the way to look there.
So this is my concern about that, AK. Grayson Rodriguez looked phenomenal against the Dodgers. The biggest issue was that he was coming off a 16-day rest.
Yep.
Where he had not pitched a game because before the All-Star break, he pitched a 6-inning game, and then they threw him for like a minimal like 3 innings in AAA at Norfolk, and then they waited like a week after that to get him to actually they called him up and pitch him. He was gassing 101. I mean, he looked like a totally changed man. Walks a couple guys, they pull him out of the game, and then Brian Baker comes in and fucking gives up a grand slam.
Yep.
I actually loved what I seen from Grayson. I think that is what I saw from him was what I didn't see when he first got called up. Where when he first got called up, I felt like he was, which is what a lot of young pitchers do. They try to like paint the corners too much and try to be too perfect, and they don't trust their stuff. And I felt like against the Dodgers, he trusted his stuff. Against one of the best lineups against right-handed pitching, he trusted his stuff. And I kind of see a little bit more positive regression coming for Grayson Rodriguez in that aspect. Now I do think the total is 8. I do think it's a little bit too low maybe. Shane McClanahan, obviously the casual bettor is going to be like, oh, Shane McClanahan's on the mound, 8, we're going under, right?
Yep.
But the Orioles hit lefties well. The Orioles also take a lot of pitches and they walk a lot. And Shane McClanahan works himself into trouble a lot, which I think can be trouble as well. So I do too, leaning under. I also think that this line here. I know McClanahan is great, dude, but anything over minus 170, if I'm getting the Orioles at a dog at $1.40 or $1.50, I'm taking it all day. It's just a blind bet at this point for me. I think it's a smart bet. They're one of the best bets as dogs throughout the entire year. So if you can get them
back to last year,
yep, if you can get them at a dog at that price, I think it's a good bet. So I actually like the Orioles. I haven't, honestly, before we talked about it, I hadn't even looked at the game. I just was looking at it now and kind of like the Orioles, although the Rays are good against a fastball. Grayson Rodriguez's best pitch is a fastball. So, Kyle Bradish's best pitch is a slider. Pitched very well today. The Rays are good against a slider. Kyle Gibson's best pitch is nothing. The Rays couldn't really hit him either. So, the Rays just might be slumping right now, AK.
I just feel like that's true, and they have been, even before the All-Star break. Like I said, about the last 30 games or so, I just feel like at some point, though, it does, trend back up.
I agree. Did the A's lose?
A's lost, yes, 6-4. Well, excuse me. Actually, Zach Gilloff, former Wahoo, actually just got on base, so 2 outs, got on first.
Oh, let's get a
Presley
run.
on the mound.
And Soderstrom pinch hitting, the rookie. Give me a run, dude. Please, just give me a run.
I'm rooting for you.
Just need a run. All right, do you have any best bets for tomorrow, or should we just follow you on Twitter?
Actually, Jordan, I actually do have a best bet for tomorrow.
All right, what do we got, AK?
I kind of touched on it earlier, and of course we know what happened today, but I actually really like the Cardinals minus 120 tomorrow against the Cubs.
Good pick.
Mikolas on the mound again. Cardinals are on an uptick. I feel like their bats will heat back up tomorrow. The total's at 9.5, so they're expecting some runs at Wrigley Field tomorrow. Fulmer's on the mound tomorrow for the Cubs, who I'm not high on it at all. And I just feel like they're catching the Cardinals on an uptick here. So best bet for the show, Cardinals minus 120 tomorrow.
I like it. I'm going to go Dodgers minus 120 as well. I think that I just think the Dodgers are in this groove, man. And I think they're in this series to prove something where people are like down on the Dodgers all year. Oh, the Diamondbacks are going to win the West. They go and take 2 or 3 from the Orioles, and now they're going to the AL West best team, and they're going to take 2 or 3 from them as well. I kind of like the Dodgers in this spot tomorrow, minus 120. So I'm gonna make that my best bet. I'm also leaning towards the O's too. Haven't got to the window yet. I need to research it a little bit more. So follow me on Twitter at JordanRulesTSP. Follow AK at AKSports90. Might have some more bets for y'all as well. But AK's got St. Louis minus 120. I got Dodgers minus 120, minus 125, whatever you can find it at. Like both of those. I really like that Cardinals pick too, AK. Even though I haven't looked at it. But I do think the thought process is there, which you always do. You always got the thought process there. We appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/@taproomsportspodcast, twitch.tv/taproomsports. It's like 12:30 at night where AK's at. Gotta get him out of here, man. It's way too late. But man, I appreciate you, AK. Always hanging out. It's always fun talking baseball with you. Always fun talking football, whatever we talk about, basketball, everything, man. It's always a good time, man. Appreciate you.
Even some golf. The guys would love to hear us talk about golf.
Oh,
Guys, if you aren't following this man right here for golf picks, you must not like making money because
not this week, dude. Don't follow me this week. Don't.
Shout out to Jordan, man. I'll text Jordan, once in a while, and I like handicapping golf as well. and I do pretty well with it. I had Fleetwood for a lot last week, finished top 20 at like plus 125, but I just don't have time to do it. Just to be honest, between working a 50-hour week job and keeping up with baseball and everything else going on in the world and trying to keep a happy wife. I just don't have time to do it the way that it should, and I'm not going to just play golf picks and nothing. Anyways, Jordan's kind of become my go-to. When I don't have time to look at golf, I'm like, just give me the winner, Jordan, and it hits a lot more times than it doesn't. So
I try, man. I try. It's been a rough open though because the weather's been something that you can't really model for. So it's been a little bit unpredictable. So the open has been very difficult. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm hoping to bounce back with some round matchups as we go forward. But yeah, man, I had Cam Smith to finish top 10. He didn't even make the cut, dude.
I always tell people because I like playing the finishing positions too. That when I kind of handicap golf, that's normally what I handicap for. And there's two parts to winning a golf bet in a finishing position. First is making the cut.
Yep.
Right, and then you got 2 more days to grind. So it's
bro,
tough, man.
my model had Cam Smith as like the #1 player on this course. Like he was the guy. So I was like, oh, plus 205, like that's plus EV, like has him as the best player. Like we're getting plus value. Bro, didn't even make the cut. That's just how it goes sometimes. Scotty Scheffler almost missed the cut, dude. He was the second best player in my model, but obviously the books have caught up to Scotty Scheffler, so you can't really get Scotty Scheffler at plus EV at all. Like if you take him top 10, you're laying like minus 140, which is just not a good bet.
Nah.
I would not suggest that. And I did take Scotty Scheffler over Rory McIlroy, and thank God Scotty Scheffler, he snuck out into the cut, and like he's only 3 back of Rory McIlroy now, so like he could definitely still beat him throughout the tournament. So tourney matchups are actually where I do my best work, but yeah, we'll have some winners, AK. We'll have some round matchup winners. I'm about to hop into the model after I get off here and
See, that's what I'm talking about.
and dive into it, man. But I gotta tweak it a little bit because dude, the weather's playing a big factor, man. It's something I didn't predict at all.
Well, and that goes into any sports, and people always ask me, why don't you play a lot of totals? There's so much variance when you look at totals in sports, but there's also so many variants in golf. There's a lot of things to handicap, especially matchups. That's why I'm always so impressed with somebody like you that can just nail these matchups, man. I kind of, when I handicap golf, I look at a lot of things, strokes gained, things like that, and how they've done on the course before,
Yep.
to kind of gauge my finishing positions and also how they've done recently.
Yep.
I think recent success in golf is a big part because I think you can get on a hot streak in golf.
Brian Harman is a great example. Brian Harman's
100%.
been great the last 4 weeks, and I don't know if you remember, AK, but I told you like 5 weeks ago. I think it was like right before the U.S. Open, the tournament right before the U.S. Open. I was like, man, I like Brian Harman in this tournament.
Yep.
And that was the last tournament he was dog shit. and then every tournament since then he's been really good. And that's just how golf goes, though. And you're right, strokes gain putting, and also looking at courses similar to the courses that they're playing at are also very. That's what you want to do, and But one thing you can't factor in is weather, because the weather changes could change tomorrow. You just never know, and that's the toughest thing. But AK, I love you, brother.
Love you too, bro. I appreciate you, having me on, us being on together, and looking forward to breaking down some football this Wednesday with you guys, and
ACC,
hopefully finding
baby.
some more winners.
Yes, ACC. We're gonna take Virginia over win total, dude, for the vibes.
Gosh, man, I'm gonna be there rooting them on, but I'm just not sold on them this year. And actually, I'll go into this later, but as a Virginia fan, like I almost like hope we just stink it up this year, just so it feels like it's a coaching change.
Damn, you just got a new coach. You already want another coach?
I didn't like it from the beginning.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I just didn't think it fit. And I was talking to our good friend of the show, Keith Landry, Bayou Bets, and he's actually on Virginia's under 3.5 win total. And I'm okay with that because say someone like a Rich Rodriguez, right? What if he just has a hell of a year?
Very
And
interesting.
uh, he texted me last week, and he kind of put this little like idea in my head, and I'm like,
What about
wow,
a Bobby
Jacksonville
Petrino?
State coming to D1. What if Rich Rod just goes and has like a stellar year? And kind of what led him to his thinking is he's on their win total, which I think is either 4.5 or 5.5, something like that. And he's like, what if Rich Rodriguez does like goes 7 games and like makes it happen, and then he comes and takes the job at UVA. Like I think I'd be okay with that. It'd be excited. Like no one was excited about bringing Tony Elliott over. Like there's
Yeah,
not one person that's like, oh my god, I'm excited about that hire.
yeah, because he wasn't bringing Lawrence with him.
Right? Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And now people were excited about Bronco Mendenhall. We kind of went through a tragedy of some years with Mike London, and everybody's excited about Mendenhall. And then look what he does, man. He takes us back to bowl games. He goes 2-10 his first year, and then right back in a bowl game, right back in another bowl game, and then we go to ACC championship game against Clemson, and we almost beat Florida.
Virginia's just such a tough place to recruit because you got to recruit against Virginia Tech, got to recruit against all those southeastern schools,
And Virginia will not lower their academic standards. That was the biggest thing about Anthony Poindexter not coming home, and why he stayed at Penn State. They wanted him to be the head coach, and you talk about excitement, but he wanted them to tweak their academic standards, and they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And
well,
so,
I got no sympathy for that, AK, for the simple fact that USC they don't change their academic standards. They still
yeah,
manage to get guys. Stanford don't change their academic standards. Cal don't change their academic standards. I mean, sometimes you just gotta be able to recruit, but the problem is that Virginia, you guys are recruiting at such a, you know, I hate to say it, but like, USC is like a national brand.
yep,
You know what I mean? Like, USC was the first team first they were like the first team that actually brought on black players, and then they went into Alabama and beat the dog shit out of Bear Bryant, which basically forced Alabama to integrate, right? So like they have this whole national history, which is why the NCAA hates USC, by the way, which is why they always can't. They want to find ways to punish them, but Virginia's in a tough spot because they're in such a tough recruiting ground, dude. Like the
yep.
DMV is like a huge recruiting portal, and you got to recruit against Maryland. You got to recruit against Penn State goes in there and grabs guys. Ohio State, Clemson, obviously, all those players.
Even the North Carolina State. We lose guys. And Ronald Curry, that was a big one back in the day. Everybody wanted him to come home to Virginia, but he ends up going to North Carolina. It's tough, man. But anyways, we'll talk about that as it comes. But as I said what I said about the academic standards, we still continue to figure out on the basketball court, and say what you want to about them, but they've figured it out and built a culture there that
Tony Bennett's a genius.
Like it or not, no one wants to play UVA. Well, maybe in March they do, but no one wants to play UVA in February or January. I promise.
He said maybe in March they do.
Maybe in mid-March.
You guys won a national title.
Yeah, I'm still salty about
no.
the amount of money.
Kyle Guy's not coming back or what? There's no more Kyle Guys.
DeAndre Hunter. Gosh, man, what a team! What a bunch of good.
Diakate.
To be able to lose and be the second now, but be the first team ever to lose to a 16 seed and come back and win the national championship the next year was an ultimate redemption story, and it'll probably never happen again. And for that same team,
what if Purdue wins the national title this year?
Purdue will not win a national title this year, and I'll continue to look at ways to fade Purdue.
Yes.
We're
gonna have so much fun talking college hoops this year, man.
I know, man. I'm so excited.
It's gonna be even better.
What's crazy? I'll say this on air because I don't talk about this enough. Baseball probably is like my favorite sport, like just in general. But sometimes I hate gambling on it. Like it'll fucking drive you loony.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
But I love baseball, and so I love the fact that you get baseball almost every day. Even if you're not gambling, even if you're just a fan of the game, You get to watch your favorite team 4, 5, 6 times a week.
Yep.
That's awesome. Football, we're, you're waiting around all week to watch them for 3 hours on Sunday, or whenever they play Monday. But baseball, you get to watch your favorite team 5, 6 times a week, man. It's awesome. So you was just a fan of the game. I love baseball, but man, it's got its ups and downs.
Oh yeah. All right, AK, we're gonna get out of here. I want to get you to sleep so you can get a good night's rest. We'll talk on Wednesday, ACC championship preview. We appreciate y'all. Thank you for hanging out with us. Have a very blessed weekend. We'll see y'all later. Peace.